back, everyone. Today I'm excited to show you how to make this beautiful rustic artisan type bread, and it could not be easier. So this is a great bread for beginners. It's made in a Dutch oven, so let's jump in. I love cooking with my Dutch oven. I love one-pot meals. I love soups, but I particularly love baking bread in it. So that is what I'm going to show you today. And the best part is you only need 4 ingredients: flour, water, salt, and yeast. As for kitchen tools, you need a big glass bowl, a teaspoon, a cup measure, parchment paper, and then the only thing not pictured here is plastic wrap. So I like to start my dough the night before, and I usually do this right before bed, and it's just 4 ingredients, so it takes less than 10 minutes. My grandmother taught me that this was the proper way to measure flour, and you're supposed to lightly scoop it into the measuring cup, tap it with your knife or some kind of utensil, and then scrape it so that it is a level, measured cup of flour. So I think of her every time that I measure like this. So you want 3 cups, and I'm just using all-purpose flour. Next up, you want to add your salt, and you don't want to skip this step because this adds a lot of flavor to your dough. So you need 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. And third, you want to add your yeast. I'm just using these packets of active dry yeast, and I just measure out 1 teaspoon. You need a large fork, a regular fork, or a wooden spoon to stir your dough together. This is the fork that I have just used for a long time. And then you want to add your warm water. So this is 1.5 cups of very warm water. Then you just want to stir your ingredients together until it forms a sticky dough. And I have heard of this being referred to as a shaggy or a textured dough, and you're going to think that something is not right, but trust me. Try to get most of the flour mixed in. There will be a little bit left on the sides of the bowl, and just mix until most of it is combined. And trust me, it will turn into a beautiful dough. Then you want to take plastic wrap and cover your dough in the bowl that you mixed it in. No need to transfer it to a different one. So cover this up pretty tightly. And then it's not necessary, but I like to cover my bowl with a towel. Then you're just going to leave this somewhere in your kitchen. I like to leave it on the back of my stove, anywhere from 8 to 16 hours. Like I said, I prepared this the night before, so the next morning, it was 12 hours later, I preheated my oven to 450 degrees. Then it was time to take a look at the dough. So I uncovered it, and as you can see, it's pretty much doubled in volume. It's gonna look a little wet and a little goopy, but it will all come together. So you need a little bit of flour to sprinkle your surface with. You want to uncover your dough, and then we're just going to put this on a clean work surface. So I like to use a bench scraper or a pastry scraper, but not necessary at all. There are plenty of times where I have just used my hands. So you just want to scoop your dough out onto some flour, and as you can see, it is very sticky. One of the best parts about this recipe is that this is a no-knead dough, so very little work goes into forming this into a loaf. So you want to sprinkle a little flour on the top and then either use your hands or some type of bench scraper and kind of turn from the bottom up and over. And very quickly you will see that this forms into a circle or a loaf shape. And that is it. You just want a round loaf of dough. Then cover it with a towel and let it rest for a minimum of 30 minutes. So there's a couple things I want to go over about your Dutch oven. So one, you don't have to put any grease or anything inside. You do want to make sure that it is oven safe, particularly the handles and the top handle. And one of the most important steps about using this Dutch oven is that you need to preheat the Dutch oven as well as your oven. So once your oven reaches 450, place your lid on your Dutch oven and place it in your oven for 30 minutes. Right before your 30-minute timer goes off, you want to take your piece of parchment paper, and your dough can be uncovered at this point. You want to scrape it up from the counter, and you just want to place this in the center of your parchment paper. If you feel the need to reshape it at all, you can definitely go ahead. This dough is super forgiving. As you can see, the dough has little ridges, little air pockets, and all of that adds to the artisanal effect. So imperfections are a good thing. So 30 minutes have passed and the Dutch oven is super hot. So I'm going to remove that from the oven very carefully, close my oven so that I can retain that heat, and then we are just going to pop that dough with the parchment paper directly into the Dutch oven. You want to place the cover on your Dutch oven. You don't have to do anything special with the parchment paper. And we're going to pop this back in the oven and bake it for 45 minutes at 450 degrees. After 45 minutes have passed, you want to take the Dutch oven out, remove the lid, and you're gonna see how beautiful this bread looks. It is golden brown and it smells amazing, but you wanna pop it back in the oven without the cover to finish off that crunchy crust. I like to put mine in for another 10 minutes. You can put it in for up to another 15. And there is no candle or essential oil that will make your house smell this good. I promise you. At this point, you want to remove the bread from the Dutch oven so that it stops cooking. The best part about the parchment paper is you can just pull up on the edges. So I like to place mine on a cutting board and let it cool down for at least 20 minutes. Look how beautiful this loaf of bread turned out. And all those imperfections are some of my favorite parts. So I let it cool for a little bit and it is crusty. It's still really warm, but I'm gonna cut into it and show you how it is. You hear that? So you obviously want to use a serrated knife, but look at that. There's like a nice crust on the bottom. The inside is nice and soft, and it smells so good. So this bread is excellent served with like soup or a stew or just on the side of a salad. The way I like to serve it is super simple. So you just cut a piece of bread, and then I have this handmade butter crock which I've used for years. You can keep your butter on the counter and it sits in water, but this is nice and soft. I just put a little bit of butter on here and let it melt. And I can't even explain to you how good this smells. So we're gonna take a taste. It's so good. I wish I could give you guys a piece just to taste. The outside is nice and crispy, and the inside is super soft. Hopefully you guys will try this bread. If you do, let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future videos, and we will see you in the next one.